Hi, my name is Hailey Callahan, and today I'll be talking about a legal case study on malpractice. This is a story of a news article I found online about a nurse in California who was blamed for the death of a man after he inserted a nasogastric tube. The nurse was not qualified to perform this procedure, and he also did so without the doctor's order. Now, as the nurse was inserting this tube on the patient, he was struggling to find the right placement. The patient's wife repeatedly asked the nurse for someone else to do the procedure since he kept removing it and reinserting it multiple times into the patient. She recalls the nurse saying, "I know what I'm doing, don't worry." After the nurse's shift, the patient did receive a new nurse, and this nurse did verify the placement to be puncturing both of his lungs because of the multiple insertions. So they pulled out the tube from the patient's lungs, and unfortunately the patient's lungs deflated and it resulted in death of the patient. So the California Attorney General and the Board of Registered Nursing did get involved with this case, and they accused this nurse of gross negligence, unprofessional conduct, and malpractice, which are some terms that we learned from the book. I can define negligence as the failure to act as a responsibly prudent person would have acted in a specific situation. Malpractice also requires that the harm be foreseeable only by the nurse, because a person without professional education would not know that harm could occur. So this nurse just failed to follow these standards of care that a nurse must uphold and follow. They did not properly supervise and assess their patient, listen and see nonverbal cues from the patient, and did not use equipment properly. There have been many instances of malpractice across the United States, but each state has a different law that regards malpractice. Since this case was in California, the family has 1 year after the discovery and 3 years after the occurrence of the injury to report this incident. There is also a maximum cap of $250,000 for non-economic damages in any medical malpractice suit. Some outcomes of malpractice for the nurse include their suspension of license, their revocation of license, they could be fired from their job, they could be fined, their patient could die, and in rare cases, the nurse could go to jail. So overall, from this case, I've learned a lot about malpractice and how it impacts the patient's life. In this case, this patient died, and the family was very upset, and they're never gonna forget this incident. It also impacts the nurse's life, financially, also emotionally, and overall the nursing practice. It affects the nursing practice because nurses realize that they must realize that their nursing license is a privilege and it's not a right. So they have to uphold these standards that were set, and they have to uphold them for every patient they have or encounter. Because malpractice is very common, I don't agree that changes will occur with this specific case, but I'm sure other instances have occurred with cases like this that have resulted in changes to laws of malpractice. This case, I'm sure, has educated me as well as other nurses. It has reinforced and informed the priority of following the standards of care and how that has an impact on your patient and your life as well. Something like inserting a nasogastric tube might not seem so severe, but it could have deathly consequences, and we need to take that seriously as our future career as nurses. because I have learned all of these malpractice claims against nurses. I've learned them in the book, and through this case, I can better recognize them and avoid them in my future career as a nurse. Thank you.